Hey everybody, I wanted to talk through Intel earnings and also just make you aware of a feature you're going to start seeing in Trade Canary. Just so you're not surprised by it, and it's not done yet, so you can kind of ignore it for now, but what I'm talking about here is below the industry strength. We're starting to do some back tests of data and expose that data. We have it in a database, but now we're going to start showing it in a UI. So basically what you're going to see is, at least for the first rollout of this idea, we want to look back in the history of any company you search in Trade Canary, and we backtest it against a couple different strategies. Now what we're showing you here in this backtest is, what if you bought, in this case Intel, anytime it was below the industry strength? And then you can look at the results of had you done that for every incident where that was true in the past. So that's really what a backtest is. Now this idea here is pretty unique to Trade Canary. We're taking the industry strength, in this case semiconductors, and then saying, okay, if Intel's strength is at or lower than the industry group semiconductors average strength, and we buy it, well, what are the outcomes of that? And no surprise, the longer you hold, in our example, well, not example, but in this first result here, if you hold for 52 weeks, it's a 72% win rate with an average gain across all of time where this was true of 32.58%. So 72% win rate, 32% gain, average loss, 24%. So this is where I'm saying we're still kind of working out some of these details. Are we going to show you stops to set in this case? And for the most part, I'm not using stops. I DCA into things. So if I'm going to put a trade on using backtest data like this, I'm thinking through it very differently than if I were just doing sort of a quant trader view on it. So in any event, I just want to let you guys know about that. You'll see this turn green and say that the trade is available now for this particular strategy when you look at one. In fact, let's just go to a new company we're looking closely into right now, Autodesk, which I believe has an enabled trade. It does, in fact. Okay, so the trade is ready now, meaning if you were to buy Autodesk when it's below its industry average, in this case software application industry, that the win rate, if you hold for 50 weeks, is 85%. Now, you can change this, and let's say we want to only hold for 10 weeks. Well, what are those numbers? Let's let the data load. Okay, so the best one, we just sort it by the best is first. If you hold for 9 weeks, 68.8% win rate, going back in all of time of Autodesk, and we might show you what that means, like how many times was it true, how many times was it a winner, how many times was it a loser, etc. So this is just round one of starting to show this data. We'll probably have a real backtest tool to go along with it too, where you can just search through companies that have specific setups that are enabled right now, and then in the Trade Canary fashion, filter them out by market cap, do they have insider trading, etc., 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 right? So that's that. I just wanted to show you that because I'm going to make it live, and then we'll finish the tool off. This data is real, but the UI is not done, so we're still talking through how to expose this. But then I wanted to go into the Intel earnings report. Now remember, we exited our shorter term calls I think the day before the earnings report, because I mean this made a real move, almost 110% gain in like 2.5 months. So is there any surprise there's some selling? I mean, look at the industry chart here. It was super the strength chart was super overheated. So this was fully expected. Truth be told, I bought some puts, I sold the calls, and now I'm selling puts again under 40 on Intel. And I will take shares if I need to. My average, I'll just tell you, is 23-ish with a very large shares position. But now we're going to start doing some options, and we're going to trade this range. We're going to trade this volatility. And let's look at the earnings report though too, because along with a sell-off like this, okay, it was overheated, great. There's also the fundamental reasons, the stories around it. So first off, net income. They made $4 billion in net income on their last report filed September 9/30, and they just filed this 12/31. So they went from $4 billion positive to negative $591 million. Well, what's that about? Well, remember, Intel got this big cash injection from the US government and from SoftBank and from NVIDIA. So this number, this 4 billion, was sort of a big change in the trend. And that's not what moved the stock, in the last few months here. What moved the stock was really the fundamental analysis, sort of macro analysis of Intel's position in the world. If you go back to 2024 on our YouTube channel, Brian and I did a video where we fully explained exactly what was about to happen to Intel. And a short 8 months later, it started happening. So let's dig into this a little more. Okay, so let's go back one more earning report as a comparison. Well, look at this, net income. So they actually had, this was a $2.9 billion net income loss that they posted in the 630 filing. So this is actually improving. Ignore this number, the fact that it's red. That actually should be green. So we'll go in there and look at that. But it's actually up, right? So up 79% from negative 2.9 billion to negative 591 million. Now, where did this come from? Well, Intel had put a lot of money into Foundry. Foundry is their chip fabrication. So 18A, you might have heard this. This is their new process for fabs. And then there's 14A. So they've put billions and billions and billions of dollars into this. And they have the most advanced chip fab on planet Earth. So they're going to start fixing their balance sheet. And this is the type of trend that I think is a real story here. Also, look at the operating income. So 630 filing last year, negative 3 billion operating income. That's money made from their operations. And now they posted a positive 667 million. So a big increase. And let's look at that compared to their previous report. So marginal change, but it's fluctuating. So now we see a trend from going negative operating income to positive. And we're seeing an improvement in net income when we strip out this US government, SoftBank, NVIDIA injection. They also posted a positive free cash flow for a 561% increase for 800 million. So really, Intel is a macro story. It's a recovering company story, and I think recovering is probably the right word because AMD took a lot of their market share. But the other thing that is important, if you listen to the earning report, Lip Bhutan, the new CEO, mentioned that they could not fill the demand because of supply chain deficits. So Intel has demand that is off the charts and they can't fill it. And what's going to happen in 2026 in our view is 18A is going to spin up and you're going to start seeing contracts come in from big names to commit to using the fabs, the chips from AMD coming out of 18A. And then you'll see 14A commitments, which 14A won't be ready until later 2027, but this is a big game changer. Not to mention, look at the CES, Consumer Electronics Show, from a couple weeks ago. Intel had a mind-blowing laptop chip where you could get 30 hours of battery life by just browsing the internet for 30 hours on a laptop with this new chip. It's so fast, so low power consumption, and they're moving all of that tech and all of this proprietary tech with their backside power management and things like this into their server chips. So we are at the beginning stage of a real explosion in the fundamental story of Intel. And that's going to turn into a technical explosion where we're going to make it to new all-time highs, most likely. That's my view. It's not financial advice. But I have a large position because of this logic. And I sleep very well at night with that large position because of thinking through this process. So big run in Intel, big sell-off, but not compared to its run. And now it's going to set up really great, juicy trades for us. And we're going to use the unusual options activity tool in Trade Canary to expose those. And if you follow with us, if you believe what we're saying about Intel here, do your own diligence on it, and we'll put out newsletters where you're going to see our entry points both on the option side of this and as we start to maybe accumulate shares if we get additional selling. So that's where we're at with Intel, and we've got this AI update coming out pretty quick here with the back testing in Trade Canary. So just be aware, send us any questions if you have them, and thanks for listening.